is Tuesday, and I have done this I don't know how many times. And it's got to come out right this time. Um, so, welcome everybody. We're continuing the series on the shadows of Christ, and we're taking Old Testament characters that are listed in Hebrews chapter 11. And this week we're going to talk about Jacob. Now, Jacob's name means deceiver. And he was a very deceptive guy. And yes, he is a shadow of Christ, and I will show you how that deception plays out in the story of Christ as well. But in Jacob's case, his life was just full of bait and switch. Now, bait and switch is a deceptive type of sales tactic where you actually offer somebody something that's very enticing and get them to pay you for it. Once you've tricked them into paying you for it, then you give them something else. That's bait and switch. That's the switch. Baited him with something, and then you switched. Okay. So Jacob starts out kind of early as a young man, and he tricks his brother into giving him his birthright. And then later he tricks his father, Isaac, into giving him his brother Esau's blessing as the firstborn, even though Esau was born first. They were twins. Now, when they were born, Esau, he was born first, but Jacob was right behind him, and even had him by the heel, had his heel in his hand. So, but yes, he tricked him out of all these things that normally would have that were his firstborn brothers. Um, so then he goes on to do some more, get some more bait and switch. The next thing that happens is his father pulls a fast one on him, his father-in-law rather. He agreed to work for him for 7 years and then marry his younger daughter Rachel. And then the night of the wedding comes, and his father-in-law sends in his older daughter Leah. Jacob wakes up the next morning when it's light outside, sees that he has been tricked. Now he eventually gets Rachel, and between his wives and his concubines, or their maids, Jacob ends up having 12 sons, and his favorite son was Joseph. And the next bait and switch is his other 11 sons didn't like Joseph, so they sold him into slavery. And then they took Joseph's coat and rubbed blood on it, and then showed it to their father and told him that Joseph had been killed. And then the next thing that happens is years later, Jacob runs into Joseph, and Joseph tricks him into believing that he's an Egyptian ruler, and a cruel one at that, and then reveals later that he's actually his son Joseph. Now, in all this time, Jacob's going through this hard life, and but he had a promise, and God promised him that in his seed, all the families of the earth would be blessed. And Hebrews talks about how Jacob blessed Joseph and his children, and praised God while leaning on his staff. But his story is so much bigger. In all of this, well, how do we see Jesus? Well, Jesus was deceptive, and he admitted to it. He said the reason he told parables was so that people wouldn't understand. He didn't want them to get it. And he also kept talking about the requirement to believe, knowing full well that nobody would or even could. Now, how does this all play in together? Well, there was a final bait and switch. See, just as Jacob supplanted his firstborn brother and got his birthright and his blessing, Jesus supplanted the first Adam and took his sin and death and took his cursings, and in the process he supplanted Adam with life, everlasting life, and the blessings of righteousness. So Adam's sin and death, Adam's sin, Adam's death, Adam's cursings, Jesus supplanted him as being the one after him, the last Adam, with life and the blessing of righteousness. And who's that for? It's for everybody. Why? Paul said that nobody believed. God blinded them so they couldn't believe, so that he could have mercy upon all. How does Paul know that? Because Jesus was the seed of Jacob, and in Jacob's seed, all the families of the earth would be blessed. All the families. That's everybody. All right, everybody.